Join us for the Tmpa and FOP Joint Conference, Dallas, Texas, July 26th through July 28th. We hope to see you there.
A call comes out for a suicidal subject, and about 15 seconds out, dispatch updates and said that he shot himself. My experience in the service and all the training that we've done for trauma, stuff like that, I knew it was a sucking chest wound. So you got to seal that. I don't have any materials. My partner shows up and she's got sandwich bags for like evidence collection, and I know that's going to work.
Welcome back, Blue Grit Podcast listeners, voyeurs, watchers. I'm your host, Tyler Owen.
And Clint McNear.
How you been?
I'm good. How about you? How's family?
Oh, they're good. They're good. Janet had to take the kids this morning, so everybody was kind of crabby. But it's warming up. You know, we had that cold snap. So I want to tell you this up front for you guys. During the cold weather, I run in the morning. As you're all well aware, I was victimized by a deer a couple weeks ago. And so when I wear earbuds in the wintertime, I wear a toboggan, beanie, whatever the hell you guys prefer to call it. And so what happens, I'm going to be really graphic and honest because I love you guys and we're family. I get earwax in my ear and it compacts, and I don't do a really good job of cleaning it all out. So this ear is compacted. So if I talk real loud, you need to slap the hell out of me and just say, hey, tone it down a little bit. Okay.
And we can handle that.
Yeah. So anyway, so that's what's going on in the Owen household. I've been screaming, talking really loud to everybody in the house.
Right.
Other than that, we're good.
Good. All right.
What about you, Mr.
We have a lot of folks that aren't in Texas that listen, and it was like 21. Today's Friday. It was like 21 Wednesday. When I got in the truck yesterday, it was 70. So our bipolar weather in Texas for the non-Texans that listen and watch. Sometimes we have summer and winter in the same day. Sometimes you turn your heater on in the afternoon or in the morning and turn your AC on. And
the best meme I saw, I forgot who it was, but it was it said something like, "Hey Dakota, your weather's down in Texas, drunk and acting up in our yard. Come get it before he put his ass in jail." It was pretty funny. So anyway,
tell who we got on today.
We got John Bellini back in the house. Welcome back to the Blue Grit stage.
Thank you.
And you brought a friend with you that's got a pretty interesting story that you thought would be a good tale.
Yeah. So this is John Hernandez. He's from the Lubbock area, and he's an officer out there, or deputy now. And we went to high school together in Cristobal. Oh. And so we've known each other for a long time, and he did something that was pretty heroic and something that a lot of people don't think about when you're under pressure, and it was a good deal. So
let's back up a minute. Where'd you guys grow up?
Cristobal.
So sometimes Tyler is audibly challenged.
See, man, that's messed up. Okay, it took me 2 months to pronounce New Braunfels. So,
and what was the other one?
Atascosa.
All right, and spell the city you guys are from.
So it's Christoval. It's Christoval.
How would you say that, Tyler?
Christ Oval.
But it's all one word.
Well, it's not. That doesn't sound like it. No.
We were talking about that at breakfast this morning. One of his brothers is up in Alaska, and they got pulled over by the state troopers. And the one kid's like, "Look, man, I'm from a small town in West Texas, and Cristobal." And they asked, and one of the troopers popped around, and it was somebody else that we went to high school with, who's a state trooper up there in Alaska now.
Yeah,
because nobody pronounces it's Cristobal, or they mess it up all the time. Which of course, I guess when you're from.
Well, I'm glad you pronounced it before you spelt it to me, because then I had kind of had a head start. I was able to cheat a little bit.
Well, it's challenging though, because like I've always said, helotes.
Yeah.
And apparently that's not correct if you're from there.
How do you pronounce it?
Helotes. And I always kind of helotes.
Oh shit!
I thought, to me, it sounded a little bit sexier in my head, I guess, than what it really is.
Yeah, matches like the region.
So Cristobal.
Cristobal.
Yeah. Okay. I've always said Cristobal.
Well, there's Bogota and Bogota, Texas.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
We're off to a great start on this one. I like this. We've educated everybody.
Yeah.
So if people didn't catch the last episode, tell folks who you are and how you're on here.
So my name's John Bellini. I'm the Region 5 director. I've been on the board now for 2 years, and I've been involved at the state level for a while now. And that's why I'm here.
And he is 21.
Yes.
And he's not Kevin's stepson, I promise.
Yeah. So that's still. Yeah.
But you've been involved with TMPA for the ones that did not catch the first episode. You've been involved with TMPA for a number of years, very heavily involved. You were the chairman of the scholarship committee, involved with our conference before you even got on the board. So you've been dedicated to the mission. God, how? I mean,
I got on the scholarship committee in 2014. I took it over 2 or 3 years later. So, I mean, since then.
He's been involved since he was 11.
Yeah. So for those that did not get awarded their scholarships, it's John Bellini. He's now on the board, so you can contact him at his email address listed on the website.
Yeah. But I don't run the scholarship committee anymore.
I'm kidding.
So.
No, you handed it off to a great woman, and she's going to do good things.
Yeah, I think so. She'll be good to go.
Yep. So,
All right, dude. We'd like to start off with who the hell are you?
John Hernandez, like John said over there.
Where'd you grow up? What's your?
jump on that mic, Big Deck. There you go.
Like that?
Yep.
Okay.
Don't start with conception, but tell us about like where were you born, where you grew up, what was
I was born in California. Boo, right? Everybody says that.
where in California?
I was born in Oceanside.
Oh,
So my father was a police officer in California. Once he retired, we moved to the Texas. He's from Plainview. So my sister was in the Navy. She married a Navy guy from El Dorado, and that's what brought us to the Cristobal area. So
Calm down, Clint.
so your dad.
He's a Marine.
So your dad, well, he's from Oceanside too, right outside Camp Pendleton.
Yeah.
So your dad grows up in West Texas and ends up at LAPD.
yes, sir.
Boy, that's a culture shock.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, he didn't have a problem with it. He joined the Marine Corps, so it's probably what brought him over to that area.
Yeah.
And your dad had a
So-
cool career. Your dad was LAPD, was an ARC, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
what was life like growing up as a cop kid?
at first you don't really realize it, but then Dad's not around for certain things, and it's one of those things that you tell yourself you're not going to do it when you grow up, right?
Right.
Well, here I am.
Here we are.
So
Is he still living in California?
no, he's in San Angelo.
Okay.
So
Cool. He's obviously retired.
yes, sir.
Did you catch flack from your friends as you grew up about, oh, his dad's a cop?
Not really. No. Never had anything like that. Usually, in California, we moved to Northern California for a little bit, so it was like a farming community.
Yeah.
Nothing serious. The gang members that are there were not very big. So
It's unique growing up as a cops kid. My dad was in homicide at Dallas PD, and when I was in coach pitch, he worked Tuesday through Saturday in homicide. And on Saturdays at coach pitch, he was our pitcher. And so he would pull up in like a Plymouth Fury or some god-awful CID car. He would get out, take his sport coat off, roll his sleeves up, and coach pitch with his badge and pistol on and his tie on. He would coach pitch my baseball game.
That's cool.
Sometimes he had to leave in the middle of it and run off the field, but most of the time he would coach pitch. I'm sure the other team's like, what in the hell's going on? But it was normal to me. I'm sure everybody else was weird as hell. It was just normal life to me.
yeah, and then he retired, so he was around for quite a bit of the high school experience and stuff like that. So it actually worked out in the long run. It's just initially you don't really see him around.
And how
so.
old are you?
I'm 33.
Okay. So I'm thinking like the Karate Kid came out in '84. So I always kind of envision like California, like the Karate Kid, but probably not going to be like that when you grew up.
It was a lot different when I was there. Now it's kind of,
So 9 years old, 14 years old, did you think, yeah, man, I think I'm going to end up being a cop?
Not at all. Not at all. I joined the service, and I ended up telling my wife when I got out, whatever you do, don't let me become a cop.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. And things worked out differently. So
Yeah. What branch were you in?
Army.
Army? Okay.
Mhm. So I went to Fort Benning, Georgia in the winter of 2009, infantry, and then was stationed in Hawaii. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was pretty nice.
Tough gig.
Yeah,
man, yeah.
someone's got to do it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you're rocking along in the infantry as a kid, never had a desire to be a cop. What moment, and then you got out of the military and didn't immediately go into law enforcement either, right?
No, I did a year in the oil field, and that just wasn't very exciting. So I went to flight school and got my helicopter pilot's license. So, trying different things.
About how old are you during the helo phase?
23, 24.
Damn.
So
And then what happened after that?
so my wife, she works for Texas Tech, so I ended up going over there and tried my hand at some college classes. Didn't really feel like I liked it a whole lot, so joined the police academy It's just kind of I have a buddy that I served with who was an officer in the Dallas area, and we're close. So went to his graduation for the academy, and we kind of talked about it. And
Self-paid, or you put yourself through?
VA. So
Talk about that, because we've talked about it before. And so for the veterans and listeners out there that aren't aware of this, talk about that process, because it's crucial.
So as long as the academy is associated with a public university or
Yes.
to your college, they'll pay for your academy. So if anything's required, so like uniforms are required, they'll pay for the uniforms. There's a lot of things that the VA has provided for me that I wasn't even aware of until we started doing it. So
Yeah, so that's crucial.
yeah, they'll pay for the books, the materials needed. Sometimes if you're relocating, they'll pay for housing.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yep. And then you get your stipend every month to go to that academy. So
So you're essentially getting paid to go.
correct.
So you get out of the military. You did some cool stuff in the military. You get out. You kind of explore some other options, and nothing is really tickling your fancy. Sitting at police academy, was it seeing like a paramilitary organization that kind of reeled you in, or was it?
I think
screw it, I've
initially
never
that's
tried
what
this, or-
attracts you to it, right? You know, once you get there, it's not really as paramilitary as they preach. For me, it's totally different. But you know, it's usually good people that want to do good things, and that's a good thing to be around. That's a good way to surround yourself with.
It's the atmosphere and the brotherhood is what
Right.
what part sparked your interest.
Right.
When I figured it was that or adrenaline junkie, you were looking first.
A little bit of both.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't have an issue going, 130 on a pursuit or anything like that.
Right.
So, and then at the same time, the banter you guys have over a dinner, it's all worth it. So
That's right.
So put yourself through the academy. Were you sponsored by an agency that you were going to hook up to, or
I was not. Initially, I wanted to go to Texas Tech PD because they have a bike patrol unit, and I'm active, so I thought it'd be kind of fun. But didn't pass their selection process, and ended up starting out in Brownfield. It's a small agency, about the size of the Level MPD department that I was at. So
somewhere outside of Lubbock for our non-Texas folks?
yeah,
Is
it'd be
that
south of Lubbock, about 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
towards Post, I guess.
More towards the other direction. So more towards like La Mesa.
Okay.
What's it like working out there? Because we don't really have a lot of. We've had one guest out of Lubbock, but we don't have a lot of people that have been on.
Yeah.
What's it like working out there? I mean, because I've worked in East Texas. Clint worked in the Metroplex.
It's flat for sure.
Dust storms and
Yeah, dust storms are all over. Wind's always high. I mean, we always joke when 30-mile-an-hour winds.
is
Like,
the economics. I mean, is there a huge dope problem, or is it just mainly white collar?
So it's kind of a bit of both, right? You have a healthy farming community, right? It's
Okay.
usually cotton in those areas. A lot of cotton gins in the small towns, but methamphetamine is a huge problem. Lubbock's a hub, so anybody from Albuquerque trying to move it to Dallas, you're gonna stop in Lubbock, and then it's gonna go from there to the smaller towns. So anybody that's within an hour of Lubbock, typically you're gonna have a methamphetamine problem. So
Okay.
and now we're hitting fentanyl. So
Yeah, exactly. And I've heard that with the oil field influx, and now it's kind of plateaued out. That also contributes to the crime increase within those little, I say, like it's West Texas towns.
yeah, you're gonna get the property thefts because they got to pay for their
Yeah.
dope somehow, right?
Yeah.
So that's typically what you get in our area is the property theft, and then your possession charges and stuff like that. So
For those that don't know, it's kind of a joke in East Texas. So East Texas and West Texas, as far as oil fields, very similar. But you guys are flat, have dust. But we would always wait for the oil field to go to shit, and then the guys that wanted boats and jet skis and four wheelers,
Yeah.
they would hit the Craigslist and Facebook groups in West Texas and try to snag them up because those guys would put them on there just as fast as they financed them. But
yeah, that
Okay.
for us it's Odessa,
Yeah.
Midland area. That's where you'll
Yeah.
get your boats.
Oh
and
hell
stuff,
yeah!
'cause,
And I
they-
mean nickel on the dollar.
yeah,
it's crazy.
it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you can definitely tell when the oil field's booming because you can see all these big trucks, fancy additions, and everything too. You're like, okay.
If I had to
okay.
redo it, I would go back to law school and be a divorce attorney.
Oh,
and go
yeah.
back to Odessa. I would make a killing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So at some point, you guys need to take this East Texas boy and get him involved in a haboob.
What?
Haboob.
Yeah, it's a thing.
A dust storm or
So
what?
I learned that in Iraq actually, It's a massive dust storm.
This isn't a joke.
No, it's not a joke.
We're not snipe hunting.
No.
It's not a snipe.
I thought the same thing when I first heard it. I was like, whatever, dude. And then you see it, and it's intense.
So this is like the theatrical dust thing coming towards you.
Moving across.
Like the mummy, as it's coming through.
That really happens.
Yes.
No shit.
Yep. Haboob.
I'd be scared shitless. I wouldn't know what to do. I thought like the end of the world's coming.
Yep.
Have you seen one?
It's probably not as bad as what they have in Lubbock. We do get them in San Angelo a couple hours after they leave because when the winds are blowing east, and we'll get it from that direction. And you can just watch it. It's probably not as dramatic in San Angelo.
You'll start to see the red tint hit the skyline, and then it's just
hell no.
And the next day, you'll have sand in your car. You'll have sand in your crack. You will have sand everywhere.
That sounds lovely. Sign me up.
Haboob.
Yeah.
We need to get Tia on a haboob.
I'll film it for you guys.
It's just fun to say.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll take a picture for you.
Another rabbit hole.
All right. So didn't hit Texas Tech. Hit Brownfield. How long did you do there?
That was very brief. My wife and I just had a baby, and the pay was not right. So I took an opportunity to explore a sheriff's office. And at that time, I wasn't prepared for that. No backup out in those rural counties. It's tough. So I did eventually end up at Texas Tech for about a year and a half.
And for folks that are like me and worked in the city, the culture shock I had, we had a deer lease in Rotan, north of Amarillo, and West Texas is sparse.
Yeah.
And I was on a deer lease. It was all Garland PD on the deer lease. Well, the game warden eases in one night in the dark, and he starts checking us. Well, he ends up seeing we're all police. So he cuts up. We feed him dinner. Well, in Garland, if I hit my emergency button or say assist, the cavalry's coming. Like raining police.
Quickly.
The wagon of ass whipping is coming very, very soon. So I'm talking to this game warden and just talking about the differences in law enforcement and the culture we're in. And I said, how far is your backup if we were bad guys and jumped bad on you right now? He's like, hell, I'll tell you exactly.
It's right there on the hip.
He gets on the radio and called dispatcher, called a coworker. He said, my backup's about 25 minutes away. And I'm like, dude, my backup was maybe 25 seconds away at any one time. 25 minutes. That's a long fight, gunfight, fist fight, ass whipping.
Yep.
Yeah.
25 freaking minutes. And that's not uncommon in a rural West Texas Sheriff's Department.
Not at all. When I worked at the sheriff's office, it was Lynn County at first. Traffic stop with a felony suspect, murder warrant. My backup was a state trooper coming from Lamesa. So, he's topped out trying to get there.
How long would that be for him?
I think it took him 22 minutes, to get there.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
But that's a great point, though, because the general public that sees these social media posts and that sees these videos online, they see a uniformed police officer. They have no idea what the region, what the culture, what the community's like. They see you on a separate video of the same two separate videos, same interaction, and one would lead maybe to a deadly force situation because of the situational difference. 23 minutes of backup versus your 2 to 5 seconds. And that's why it's so important for us to push our message of the law enforcement aspect of them not knowing, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you mentioned about how long his backup is, because that's why I feel like it's our job, and I think we do a good job of it, of pushing that message out there. Kevin Lawrence says it best, is when those situations happen, let the facts come out in the investigations instead of jumping to conclusions.
Well, it's the same, great point, because that's the same as like, well, I saw that police car speeding.
Yeah.
Well, it may have been because this guy's by himself with a
Whipping
murder
his whip that, yeah.
with a murder suspect taking an ass whooping, or guy trying to get his gun out of his holster, and his nearest backup's 20 minutes away. So yes, the squad was going fast to try and get over there to help him. And to your point, let the facts come out before we judge.
Absolutely right.
And I will say in the area that I'm at, if an incident goes down, a lot of the times those agencies in the area, they send everybody. So Lubbock's going to show up, Brownfield will show up.
It's a great point. We just had Caleb Mitchell with Jefferson County Sheriff's Association on. And again, back to Clint's point, he may go a whole year without interacting with another agency. And it wasn't because he didn't want to. It wasn't because Garland PD doesn't interact with other agencies because they're too good. It was because they simply just did not interact with them because it was their own community. It was their own world. And people don't realize, for the listeners that work in metro areas, man, you may be on a call and there might be you, a city officer, county, DPS, game wardens. There might be a Fed. You don't know, but y'all are all together working on one channel. And some people like him, that blows his mind that 5 different agencies are working off one channel. And because he's never
trooper or game warden rolled up on my call, I'd been like, what the hell is going on?
Last week we had a vehicle pursuit that he wrecked out and it turned into a foot pursuit. But we had the sheriff's office, Levelland PD, that they initiated the stop. We had state troopers. We had Ropesville ISD police chief was out there. It just everybody came.
Yeah.
Sundown had some officers. That's just how we operate over there.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's crazy how different the culture can be a couple hours away.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Because my time, I only knew what I knew.
Yeah.
And in my time, I knew that probably no more than 90 seconds to 2 minutes, I can have a lot of help raining down on. It never crossed my mind of, oh, shit, if this goes sideways, it may take 15 minutes for at least one person to be able to come here. That was never a consideration.
Yeah, I've experienced both. At Texas Tech PD, I mean, there are cops everywhere. You're on a campus. It's not very big.
Right.
So that was very quick backup for anything that actually went down, which, it's college. So usually it's just a drunk college kid. But out in the counties and stuff, you start to realize that. And then I go to Levelland PD, and it's a little bit bigger. I think it's like 15,000. And, you're just trucking along, but you've got the sheriff's office and the PD backup's about a minute.
How many times have you stood on your patrol car trying to hit the towers with your radio signal trying to get out?
Oh, man.
Are y'all digital?
Yeah, there's some areas you got to take it out, hold it up.
Stand on one leg.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean,
but I understand where you're coming from. That's kind of what we had to deal with out there, too.
Yeah, in-car radios work great.
Yeah.
Portable radios, not so much.
Not so much, yeah.
You start getting on those cotton gins, you're not going to get out at all. So
solar flares, baby. Solar flares. That was an excuse we were told one time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you transitioned from the sheriff's office, from Texas Tech to the SO, and that's where you're at right now?
I went to Levelland PD after Texas Tech.
Okay.
I was a street cop in a campus environment.
I got you.
Wasn't cohesive at all. But went to Levelland PD, and it's a great agency. They have the right direction.
Yep.
They've made some changes as far as leadership goes, but everything was great. And I had this incident that we're here for. I had just started. I started in August of last year, so this was October of last year.
Okay.
So,
do you want to talk about the day and kind of how it started and how you got dispatched to the call? Or
so it was a Sunday, and I'm a Packers fan, so.
Now,
on the next episode,
you don't know his wife, okay? I mean, his wife is like die-hard Packers fan.
So we're recording this on the 17th, I think, of January, and the Dallas Cowboys forever.
They got stomped.
We cannot go that far, but they just lost the Green Bay Packers, and they're out for the 2023 season.
Yeah.
Easy.
Does it surprise you? I mean,
no, it doesn't, but we'll continue on. So it's a Sunday, Packers.
Yeah, and it's Rodgers' last year, so it's it's a big thing for Packer fans. 2 quarterbacks in the last 30 years. That's what we're used to.
So it's Sunday, and you're on the call.
Yeah. And you're trying to follow the game a little bit. And, then a call comes out for a suicidal subject.
Okay.
It says he's got a firearm, and I was still on FTO.
Possibly a Cowboys fan.
I was still on FTO, so I was in my own vehicle, but kind of like a ghost face thing where they kind of shadow you a little bit. And so as I'm making my way to the call, my mindset is tactical advantage, right? You're not going to pull up right to the residence in your vehicle, start to unlock the rifle, and about 15 seconds out, dispatch updates and said that he shot himself. So a lot of things go through your mind. You're thinking head wound, what am I going to do when I get there? A vehicle was blocking him, so I didn't see him right off the bat. But as soon as you exit and round that vehicle, he's laying on the ground. Obvious blood everywhere, that kind of thing. And I can tell that he's not breathing. So I checked for a pulse. He's got one. So that kind of eliminates some of the things there, right? So the next thing I got to do is figure out, where he's wounded at and stuff. And he's got a chest wound. It's you can see the burn marks around the wound and everything. So it was very close. I think we got a copy of the video, and I think he actually touches his chest. So at that point, from my experience in the service and all the training that we've done for trauma, stuff like that, I knew it was a sucking chest wound. So you got to seal that, right? So again, just started. I just got my unit. Don't have a whole lot of stuff. I don't have any materials. My partner shows up and she's got sandwich bags for like evidence collection, and I know that's going to work. So I tell her to grab the sandwich bags, and she brings them out, and we start to seal that chest wound with it's a modified occlusive dressing for the most part. What you typically want to do is you want to tape off, 3 sides or 4 sides, however you're taught. There's a ton of ways to do it, and once that pressure starts to equalize, it makes it easier for him to breathe. He eventually starts to breathe on his own. He throws up. We got to clear his airway, and then after that, man, he's fighting us, trying to, it hurts, so he's trying to get us off of him and stuff like that, and it's on at that point. So
for listeners that may not understand the lingo or the term, explain what a sucking chest wound or why.
So a sucking chest wound is another pathway for air to get into the chest cavity. So it's not a natural way, right? So what it's going to do is it's going to start to fill that chest cavity, and you're not breathing correctly. Usually you're going to collapse a lung and those kinds of things. And so when you seal it, you can help equalize that, make it a little easier for someone to breathe. But you also are in danger of a tension pneumothorax, which is where there's too much air in the chest cavity. Now that's why these chest seals that are coming out, they've got their own vent systems now. When it gets so much pressure, it'll let air out. Without that, they call it burping. You have to open it yourself, close it, and so.
And it's different, like all the movies you see. It's all sexy where they go in and get a piece of hose and shoot it in. That's a collapsed lung, not necessarily the exact same thing,
right,
or the exact same wound. It's completely separate issue going on.
Mm-hmm. And you can once you seal it with a chest seal and you start getting to the tension pneumothorax, there's a bunch of different symptoms to let you know about tension pneumothorax. You have a tracheal deviation, so it'll start to push to one way. That's the air pushing it over. Once you see that, burp it. Let's equalize the pressure a little bit. There's a lot that goes into it, and I barely know much. It's just what I learned in the service.
And how long is that's a hasty treatment?
Mm-hmm.
But how long technically is that? It's not a permanent fix. It's not a long-term fix, but it's basically until you can find some sort of
what's the timeline
more
for when you
advanced
get
trauma
medical?
care.
Well, I don't think I've actually ever looked that up, but there's a lot of stories from Afghanistan, Iraq, where they've 18 hours on a mission and this guy's got a chest wound. Can't really get him out right away. You know what I mean? There's a lot of amazing stories out there, but for that situation, AeroCare got there an hour after the incident, so he was stable for what we could do. 15 minutes. So,
and that's where you learned in Afghanistan, is that right?
I was in Iraq.
Iraq,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
So, and that's just the training that infantry guys go through. It's a lot of bleeding control, trauma care, because we can't just call for an ambulance out there. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. And if you do get an AeroCare out there, it's going to be 30 minutes to an hour. Sometimes it could be longer. Sometimes you might even have it. The weather might permit something else, so.
What was the reaction of the paramedics when they showed up to see, like, who the hell is this guy?
Well, yeah, on the video, you can kind of tell there's some tension there because, he shows up and I'm telling him, hey, this is what I got. I need a chest seal. And he's like, we got gauze on the truck. Like, that's not going to help.
Yeah.
But I think, and, for the most part, paramedics are really good at what they do. And, they were just trying to figure out what was going on. And I think it was a new officer mixed with an experienced paramedic and, can't tell him anything. So
what I'm fixing to say is not a shot, no pun intended, or trying to insult the rural EMS personnel. But if you don't work in the rural areas, like you probably have never seen this, you most likely had Garland Fire, Dallas Fire, San Angelo probably has their own.
Ours can be slow too, though. I mean, it just depends
no,
on the time.
and what my point was that in the rural areas they contract out.
Oh.
And so some of the standards are not what they are in other jurisdictions. And so back to your point about the gauze, the appearance, the knowledge, the professionalism that you see in other jurisdictions across the state, majority, the metropolitan areas, is significantly different when you get into the rural areas. And it has a lot to do with the hiring process and the hiring quality of the EMS personnel. And so I'm assuming and probably going off a whim that's probably it was a contracted EMS.
Well, no,
hospital.
not for Level N. They've got their own full-time EMS, but they're just like, country boys. Like,
Are they part-time, volunteer, full-time?
this particular crew, they're full-time.
Okay.
And so they were there, but I don't know the extent of their,
Right.
whatever.
Okay.
They may have just assumed, hey, this dumb rookie cop, what's he doing?
Exactly.
Had no idea your experience.
Right. And from my experience with military, I knew what I had. I knew what I was looking at, and I knew what.
Right.
That doesn't mean that because I know what I'm looking at that I'm going to save this guy's life. It's all dependent on his body and how it reacts to it. So, we got lucky with that one. So
you guys got him stable and then stood by how long? Waiting on EMS?
So I'm not particular on the exact timeline. My sergeant called for AeroCare, and they got that ball rolling. I'm not paying attention to anything at this point. That's what their job is to do.
Right.
And it was about an hour, I think, from the time that they called for AeroCare. They spun up, and they made it to the field right next to his house.
So for the hour, you're just standing by and
Until EMS,
monitoring.
when EMS got there, we put them on the truck, and they were able to do a little bit more care. And then at that point, I exited the ambulance and started doing, scene processing and witness interviewing and that kind of stuff. So
contact wounded himself, handgun. I'm
yeah, it was a
guessing.
380.
Probably why it saved his life.
Did he survive it?
He did.
Wow.
Yes. He's from what I heard, he's doing great. He's doing a lot better. He's moved, divorced his wife for whatever reason they were fighting for, whatever.
That was the reason why.
Yeah. So, and I didn't know anything about the guy. Apparently, this is a weapon thing is a regular thing with him. So, I just didn't know him. I've been there for 2 months.
Had you ever responded to that kind of call before this one?
In Brownfield, we responded to a couple of stabbings.
But nothing to this degree.
Nothing to the degree of a chest wound like that.
Right.
Not in law enforcement, no.
Yeah.
So we have a way in our profession of beating each other up in a nice way. So as the new rookie coming in and doing this heroic deal and being squared away and having that knowledge, did you catch flack for?
Of course. Yeah, you got because you get in there and they ask, what's your background? You tell them, you've always got the people that are like, yeah, whatever, dude. And then an incident like that happens and you really can't say much other than, hate. So
Yeah.
it definitely, creates professional enemies, I guess you could say,
Yeah.
right? And then you've got people that are like, let me pick your brain.
Yeah.
And those are the ones that you want to hang out with because they're willing to learn.
Yep, trying to be better.
Mm-hmm. So, and like I said, I don't know everything. What happened that day was just luck of the draw. I knew what I was doing.
Clint, can you comment on people that I guess the listeners or viewers watchers that want to talk about the liability? Because sometimes, like even as a young cop, I was hesitant about doing it, about getting involved medically. We have no liability. I mean, if we jump in just like you did and something went bad, the civil liability on that, there's none because we're trying to, in good faith, provide medical care.
Yeah, and it's really changed over the year, and public perception drives a lot of it.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, when I was hired in the early 90s, you show up and some guy's low sick, you're like, hey, I've notified FD, they'll be here in a bit. And with the advent of body cameras and cell phones and all of that, you got to do something. You have to go up and give care. And I used to struggle internally. If a guy pulls a gun on me and I got to shoot him, you want me to go up and try and save his freaking life after he pulled a gun on me? But the fact of the matter is, in grand juries and court of public opinion nowadays, we've got to go up and give some sort of immediate care. But there's no liability on it because, there's certainly not an expectation that every cop's going to be an EMT or a paramedic.
Well, even like a vehicle accident, if we go up there and try to render aid and try to help out, we're held to this like a citizen. They're not held to civil penalty. But I'm glad you said something about the body cam. When these body cams were initiated and implemented into all police forces, or should be, everybody was on the other side. We're going, man, we can't wait for all this footage of all these cops doing all this bad shit. Well, the reality is we're getting good footage of cops doing good stuff.
Dragging people out of burning cars.
Yeah,
and
going into ponds, ice cold ponds, and getting people out. So
Yep.
I wish yours would have been captured on body cam.
It is.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they've got a copy of it, and I'll have to contact the department and see if they can release it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Prior to all this stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe you guys can pair a little bit of it with it. But, yeah, my camera didn't activate the way it was supposed to. So when the lights come on, it's supposed to kick my camera on.
I got you.
So my camera didn't activate till about stretcher going into ambulance.
Okay.
But my partner, she got everything.
That's awesome.
As soon as she got there, she's got her angle of me and what we're looking at. And we're finding exit wounds, and it's just it's a good angle from her video.
So you were deployed, did some time in Iraq, and you come home and go through something like that. Did you just go right back to work and rock along? Was there some internal working through what all just went?
I think it's a little different than the military, right? Like you don't know these people when you're working the streets and stuff. So it's not something that you take home, I guess you could say. It's like, dang, that was a crazy day, but that's it.
Yep.
It's not the same as spending all this time with somebody that you guys are brothers and all this other stuff. And if, something goes south, that's a different feeling.
Yeah.
Right. So
I can understand that.
Yep. Well, and it's a great point for young officers that are listening is you got to have to kind of remove yourself from it. People used to ask, well, how'd you work homicide? I'm like, as cold as it sounds, at some point I ended up, I guess for self-survival, I treated the decedent as a piece of evidence.
Yeah.
And that way I wasn't emotionally attached and I could function and work through it. And I'm sure to non-law enforcement it sounds cold, but that was my way of managing or compartmentalizing it as this dead guy's a piece of evidence that I need to try and solve the case. And, it's your way of managing, hey, I didn't know him, I saved him, and he's on down the road, and it's way different than my brothers in Iraq. And
right. Yeah, and I think we kind of get wrapped up in the whole, they're people, and like we get it, but we're people,
Yeah.
And if we do that every single day, and we're seeing this every single day, what break do we get, right?
Right. Well, and I think your prior military experience had everything to do with how you dealt with it. Mm-hmm. I think my first, and this isn't a poor pity me, but I want to kind of tell the listener that if somebody does experience something like that and they do have issues dealing with it, distinctly remember I was rolled up on a vehicle accident out in the county, and it was a Chevrolet HHR. And when I showed up, the woman was alive and the vehicle was on fire. And as I'm putting the fire out, trying to with the fire extinguisher, it ran out. So I had to watch this woman burn up to death. And I remember dealing with that, and I was young. As we said in the last episode, I wasn't exactly the brightest because I didn't deal with dogs a lot. We discussed that last episode. We'll kind of get into that later on off camera. But man, I really, it really hurt. Like I had to talk to my wife about it, and I didn't talk to the counselor. I didn't talk to people at work. And I didn't talk to people at work because at that time in law enforcement, it wasn't really accepted as it is now.
Right.
And so if anything out of this podcast we can talk about is that, man, if one of your brothers or sisters comes up to you and you guys are 25 and meeting up late at night in the afternoon in a church parking lot, side by side bullshitting, and they come at you and they talk about, man, that call was fucked up. That's a jacked up call, and they're having a hard time dealing with it. Don't be an asshole and make fun of them. Like, listen to them.
That's the biggest downfall in our career.
Absolutely.
Is we eat our own. We freaking, like you said, there was some people that were jealous and had a lot of hate for what you did. That's just freaking jealousy, or it's a small-minded person that doesn't recognize that what went on. We're the world's worst about eating our own and screwing each other.
And I couldn't talk to anybody at work because of that reason. I was afraid that they would make fun of me and so forth. But again, this profession has done so much in such little time. And I think the military, one of the things that does the best is mental health. And so we are trying to get there. Hopefully, this podcast can shed light. ATO does a phenomenal job with theirs and pushing their message. So anyway, but yeah, I think your military background had a lot to do with how you kind of dealt with that day.
I agree. And my particular shift was really good about making sure I was good afterwards.
That's awesome.
So it really brought us together as a good little team. So, but I mean, I couldn't have done it without them. If my partner didn't have sandwich bags, it's pointless, right? sergeant was there securing the scene, making sure that we're safe because there's still a firearm involved, right? So there's a lot of things that go into it that we don't always think about. And that's what supervisors are for, and good teams and stuff like that.
So for young man or woman that's just getting out of the academy, 21, 22 years old, they can't all go become paramedics and EMTs. From your experience and knowledge and understanding of the application, what would you, two things, what type of trainings would you encourage them, and what kind of minimum supplies would you say is a must to having a go bag in their car that you would recommend?
Well, as far as like trauma stuff, I mean, you got to have tourniquets, right? That's an obvious. You got to have chest seals, pressure dressings, and then maybe some backup bleeder control. So like if you're going
pack
into pack a wound, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Those are the minimums that you need. As far as
and those aren't expensive. I mean, you could carry it in a small bag in your patrol bag.
I think certain websites have them for like $150 for a fully put together kit. Throw it on your backpack or something.
Well, besides tourniquets, if these patrol officers would get out and be friendly and go in and meet the medical staff at every hospital and explain what they're trying to do, and explain that, hey, I'm the first one on scene. That the hospital directors and the executive directors that may be listening, I doubt there are with hospitals, those nurses and ER nurses, they will give you and make you a go bag. They did for us.
And I think small town nurses are great.
Hell yeah.
Man, they are awesome.
Yep.
I've heard law enforcement interacts with nurses sometimes.
Yeah.
That's
a separate episode.
The flight medic that responded to that shooting, she's actually a nurse, ER nurse at the city that I worked in. And so we actually got to meet and talk about the incident afterwards. So it was actually a really good experience. And she was like, yeah, I didn't have to do much. Change the dressings out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was good to hear that feedback.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
So what kind of minimal, like back in the day, there was only like CPR training. Is there any couple little trainings that you would suggest people, or online, something that people could watch and have some minimal knowledge to help? Anything you can think of? So
I think there's a lot of those trainings that are coming out now with T-Cole and those kinds of things. And then I know that like Lubbock County, their SWAT, they put on a lot of those trauma care classes. If you can get into those, they teach you how to pack a wound. They usually have an artificial limb, and they're pumping liquid through it, and you've got to learn how to stop it. Applying tourniquets, those trauma care ones, because we're not going to show up and, perform heart surgery, right?
Yeah, I think
trach and chest tube.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
TTPOA also does a care and wound course. So big shout out to TTPOA.
Yeah, you just got to get in there, and if you're an officer, whether you're brand new or experienced, and you're not trying to learn something like that, you're wrong. Yep. Let's just call it what it is. Because if that was your family, right, would you want that officer to have knowledge or not have knowledge?
Right. And it's one of those things you think, well, I don't need it. Well, you don't need it till you freaking need it,
right?
Like you did that day.
Yeah, and then you go around and you see agencies that are either they're too small or they don't have experience, and they've got tourniquets still in wrapping. They've got nothing that they should be having, but it looks cool, right? Right, we got the cool guy gear.
Yeah.
It's not going to do anything.
Right.
You got your tourniquet in the small of your back. Okay. Get to it when you need it, because it's not going to work.
Right.
Right, that needs to be up front where you can grab it with both hands in the event that your arm is shattered from a round or something. So
we were talking about it last night. Tourniquets, you're going to make fun of me. I'm not that old. When I was in the military.
What are those in your pocket? Those readers?
Shut up. When I was in the military, it was, you do not use a tourniquet. That's old, antiquated Vietnam stuff. You're going to make somebody's arm fall off. You don't use a freaking tourniquet. That wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Just a couple of years ago. And now we're back to using tourniquets. And really, you should have two tourniquets on you for self-aid, buddy aid. Because if you're shot and I'm way low sick and can't help myself, he needs to get a tourniquet on himself and then try and help me get one on me, because I can't. And if I don't have one on me, I think tourniquets are incredible, and you've got a lot more experience and knowledge in it. And again, we were told you don't put no matter what, you're going to kill somebody, you're going to make their arm fall off. And now you said there's 8-10 hours that somebody will be with a tourniquet.
When I joined the service, that was the answer for everything. If you are slightly bleeding from the leg, high and tight,
You got the flu? Tourniquet.
tourniquet.
Yeah.
And they
But I
figured
just
out
stubbed
that-
my toe. Shut up.
They figured out during those engagements, Iraq and Afghanistan, that these soldiers are keeping limbs longer and longer. Just once they clear that danger area, they're able to save the limb. So,
But you hit on something a while ago, the tourniquet and the application of the tourniquet. Cops, for the longest time, they don't utilize their belts during training. Let me hit on that. I went to a training course in California, and I got my ass lit up. Where we were training at before, when we would get shot with ammunition rounds, we would say index stop, and we would hold up our hands, and we were done. I went to this training in California, and I'm getting shot up, and I'm like holding my hands up like I had been training. And I was like, hey, what are y'all doing? As they're continuing to shoot me with AR ammunitions, which if you guys haven't been shot with those, it hurts
hurt.
like hell.
About 600 feet per second.
And they're screaming at me to put my tourniquet on. And so I kind of snapped back into it. As soon as I put my tourniquet on, the guy walks up, whispers in my ear, and says, now get back in the fight. My point being is that from that point forward, it changed my mentality on how I train, because you will fight like you train. And so for you firearms instructors out there that are listening to this, if you're not implementing tourniquets, mag, of course you got to implement mag changes anyway, but your whole duty rig for these cops, for your cops, you're missing the mark significantly. So I just
Yes.
want to throw it out there.
no, you're right. I think you get too many times you get in these agencies where the chief is 1970s policing.
Yeah.
No outer carriers. Okay.
It's stupid.
I mean, we're all trying to sit here and survive, long-term back issues, but at the same time, we're applying new equipment, but we have nowhere to put it, right? I'm not a big guy.
Well, we've always done it this way.
Yeah.
That's the answer for everything.
Yeah,
It's an amazing
back
answer.
in my day, back in your day, you had a revolver. What's the point for having,
Right.
Put your speed loader away
Exactly,
there, Dirty
right?
Harry.
So it's like, to me, it doesn't make any sense, right? The Army's always trying to improve trauma care in the field, equipment, all kinds of stuff, and then you want to take your paramilitary, right? And you want to say you're paramilitary, and we're trying to adapt too, but
Right.
a lot of these, they're afraid of the word tactical or narcotics, right? It's just those things that come out, and you don't have any control over it. You got to deal with it, but there is a need for additional space, right? And then there's a need for proper training, and I think a lot of agencies miss that. If you're a rural department and you're not trying to train your guys on, trauma care for self and trauma care for citizens, then I do think you're failing.
Yeah.
Well, we talked about this. I don't know who the conversation with was yesterday, but
Oh, you
if
forgot?
you're not trying to go,
That age getting you.
if you're not trying to advance at an agency as a leader or as an organization, if you're not always trying to advance, then you're going backwards. You're not staying the same, you're going backwards. And I see so often that, well, in 77 we were doing it like this. Well, that's good. That was 50 years ago full.
Right.
Every agency, and it doesn't matter, you don't have to have a huge budget. Rural agencies can get out and train and do a whole lot of stuff. There's not an excuse for it. There's
I
not an
agree.
excuse for it.
I've been researching. I don't know for sure how it's going to work out, but there's that tack strap. You guys seen that? It's like it's a retention strap that goes for your holster, and maybe the other side, right? You just throw it on there, and in the event that you do need it, it's already high and tight, and it's a ratchet, and it's a tourniquet as well as a retention strap for your holster.
That's cool.
So kind of a shout out to tack strap, but
Yeah.
I've been looking at it because it's already there, and if you need it, you just crank it. You can do
So
it
it's
with one
like the
hand.
strap on a thigh rig. It's
Correct.
already around your
Yep.
thigh.
And you crank it, and you can still engage. You can
pretty smart.
You can move, and
Why did I not think about this shit?
I was just thinking,
Right?
why didn't I think of that?
I mean all the stuff.
Tax
that
strap,
could've-
you can be a sponsor if you contact Blue Grip.
right. And so I've been looking into that, and then you have the right to have the right agency where they'll let you wear straps, right? Because not a lot of places do. It's too
'Cause it looks
tactical.
scary, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, if I get out of a vehicle, approach a vehicle in a traffic stop, and if I look like I'm ready for a fight, they're not going to want one, right? That's part of your force continuum, right?
But they don't- but-
Officer presence.
That didn't bring votes.
So
Yeah, well.
to your point, one of the things that I enjoyed about officer-involved shootings was when the suspect didn't die, is I would ask an officer, hey, and one of them I'll say specifically, about 4 months earlier, he he got involved in there was an OIS in a neighboring agency, and 4 months before that, we had stopped him about the same time of night, almost identical circumstances, but he got in a gunfight with the neighboring agency, and I had the opportunity later to interview him, and I said, "Hey, man, you got stopped in Garland like 3 months prior. Do you have a gun on you?" "Yep." I said, "How come you didn't do anything?" He said, "Because when I looked in the mirror, that guy looked like had a can of ass whipping in his pocket, and he was walking up to the car with a can of ass whip in his pocket." And I said, "Okay, well, what made you in the neighboring agency get in the gunfight?" He said, "When the guy got out, he looked like a slob that had slept in his uniform, had a drink in his hand." And he said, "The second he cleared his car, I thought, I can whip his ass." And to the point you just said, he made a 2-second judgment based on, and for all he knew, the Garland officer, he could have whipped his ass or, done whatever. But his initial thought was, holy crap, that guy looks sharp, squared away, and is walking up with a can of ass whipping for me. Yeah. Have some self-awareness of.
Right. And I get it. Age is going to catch up to you, injuries, that kind of stuff.
Easy.
Right.
He's sensitive.
but you have to do what you can to make yourself ready to go home at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Right? And what kind of partner would I be if I couldn't join the fight and protect my partner?
Yep.
Right. It's just not worth it.
Yep.
And if you can't do that, you don't want to do that, well, retire, I guess. I don't know what to tell you.
Yep.
Agree.
Go find something else to do, because people are dying on this job, and it's a sad truth. But if you're looking at officers getting into shootouts and you're not trying to at least take a advanced pistol course or something,
Or stay in shape.
shape, or work on your own reloads, or how to reload when your dominant hand is damaged in some way, then you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yep.
You're just not trying to go home, right?
Yep.
So,
What is your very, very best day you've ever had, and what is your worst day you've had?
in law enforcement,
Life?
man, I would have to say both of my kids' birth, right? Like it's those are awesome. I think I never wanted to be a father. Eventually broke down, and it's the best thing.
You know
that's
what
ever
causes
happened.
that, though, right?
What's that?
I'm just kidding.
So it's just, that's probably my very best days, right? Those kinds of things are what makes life important, right?
Yep.
And so as far as it stands for me, I can continue to do this job because I have a legacy already, right? It's my 2 sons. And so for me, that's important. My very worst day would probably be the death of my grandma. That was hard. So
Kind of the matriarch of your family or
yes,
something?
sir. Yes, sir. And it was time. She was suffering and stuff like that, but it's still sad to see.
Yep.
So
Understand.
So you're 31,
33.
33.
I appreciate it.
What would your 33-year-old self standing here today, if you looked across and 16-year-old you was standing there, what would you say?
I would probably say pay attention a little more, right? Pay attention to the little things, the people that are around you that won't be there 10 years from now, that kind of thing. But
That's a great point.
Yeah, I think just slow down and enjoy life a little bit.
Yep.
For me, I made a move from the agency that was involved in the shooting, right, or the trauma care, to the county, because I live in the county. And if I'm working Christmas or whatever, I can at least swing by and be present, right? Don't be selfish. You got kids that are watching you. Be around and try to make the move for your family, right? And just be present. So I think everything else is just, it's not as important as your kids watching them grow up and that kind of stuff, being there for their birthdays and Christmases and stuff like that. So
Yep, priorities.
Well, Bellini, you got anything?
Not really, not at this point. I think y'all covered most of it.
I learned a lot today. So I've always wondered when I get on to Tyler, he goes index, 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 index. And I didn't know where that came from. I know now.
I
where
learned
that came
quickly in
from.
California. That's exactly what you do.
So yeah, I never learned that one. So I don't know.
index is, we also learn it in the service. I mean, every time
You stop.
index means stop.
End
Immediately.
exercise.
Yeah, end exercise. We're gonna go and debrief and talk about what you did right, what you did wrong.
Yep.
So,
But
and
it's a
be critical of yourself too, right?
Yep.
And your team, right? If you be honest, right? Say, hey, dude, you sucked at that reload.
Yeah.
You're right.
But it's a great point that you're going to revert to your training. You reverted to your training. In Florida years ago, there was an FBI shootout, Platinum-Matics, I think it was. And one of the guys died because in training they would, I think, take their empty mag out or
Load the bullets on top of the car.
yeah, load the bullets on a table, and he was found deceased and was setting his bullets out to begin to reload because that's how he was trained to do it. And no fault of his own, but we revert to what our training is, and that's a good point brought up.
Yeah. Thank you. Means a lot to me.
Good.
My heart is warm.
Did good.
Well, man, we end each episode with 3 rapid fire questions. Okay. Have you studied for them?
Yeah.
Have you been told about them?
No, I have not.
Bellini?
I didn't tell him.
All right. First question. Favorite cop car? Or excuse me. Line from a cop movie or favorite cop movie?
So, favorite cop movie?
Yep.
I like End of Watch.
That's a good one.
Awesome, man.
I think it's just great.
That's a good one.
And then what's the other question?
Line from a cop movie. If you can think of one.
End of Watch has a ton of great
They
lines.
do. Man, I can't really think
That's
of
fine.
them.
What's your favorite cop car?
I like the Explorers, the Interceptors. I think they're pretty sweet.
That's fine. We can live with that. We can agree.
Yeah, we're good with that.
I
right.
wouldn't
So
drive
neutral.
a Ford my own personal life, right? But
What?
I wouldn't drive a Ford my own personal life. But if
Okay,
I'm,
we'll move on to the next question.
you know why? Because they sponsor the Cowboys, and it's not going to work, man.
Oh, my God.
You know it's not going to work.
I mean, I'm not. I got
Well, then
29.
you're done bringing people on.
I'm sorry. I got 29.5 miles a gallon coming up here in my Ford, so I'm
There
not
you go.
complaining about
See?
that.
There
See?
we go.
I'm hoping we can shock the world again and beat the Niners. And
Yeah.
you know,
Well, that didn't happen.
Shout out
Yeah.
to Ford. You could be a sponsor of
anything's
one of your
possible with a little
podcasts.
bit of love.
That's right. That's right. What's your favorite drink of choice?
Drink.
Drink of choice.
I like Chilton's. They're a local thing for Lubbock. So a little bit of vodka and lemon juice, club soda, but sweet tea, man. I think sweet tea is
There
where
you
it's
go.
at.
I like it.
You got anything else, big dog?
No, sir.
Well, man, this wraps it up. You guys stay safe. Is that it?
Hit subscribe, ding the bell, follow, like, share,
Yeah.
comment down below.
Yep. Big shout out to Sons of Liberty for being our guest sponsor for this episode. Always show them some love. We'll have their website attached to this episode. Our conference is going to be July 26th to the 28th there at the Dallas Marriott. We'd love to see you guys
Hyatt
there.
Reunion Tower.
Sorry. Oh,
Hyatt Reunion Tower with the big
Wrong.
ball in Dallas.
let me redo that one. Our conference is going to be in Dallas at the
Hyatt Regency Reunion Tower.
All right, July 26th through the 28th. We'd love to see you guys there. I may be there, I may not. Depends on how my actions and behavior up until that point. But man, we would love to see you guys. It's a great event. Get to network with everybody across Texas. Our board of directors will be there. Bellini here will be there as well. So you guys come out. I'll have the information there in the episode.
I learned last night it's bougie leaning, isn't it?
Really?
So my dispatchers call me Sergeant Bugini. And
Bugini.
Because I buy them fancy things, they say. And
Huh.
it's simply because I manage the budget a little bit differently than the last guys. And,
You're not going to let that down.
you know.
Bugini.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
And it is a combined Tmpa FOP conference.
That's right. I forgot to mention that. Yep, absolutely.
So you can come hang out with Tmpa, FOP, and Sergeant Bougie. We'll be there all week,
Yeah, that's
all
right.
weekend.
That's right. Well, cool. You guys take care. Stay safe. God bless you. And as always, may God bless Texas.
We're out.